I knew something was wrong the second I tried to slide my key into my front door after spending 3 days at my sister's in Portland. I mean, all I wanted was to drop my bag, collapse on my own couch, maybe make myself a cup of tea and just zone out, you know. But my key wouldn't budge no matter how I wiggled it or tried turning it upside down. At first, I figured maybe I was overtired or grabbed the wrong key, but it was definitely the right one. My heart started beating out of my chest as I pressed my face to the living room window, and right there in my entryway were cardboard boxes that had absolutely not been there when I left on Friday. That's when it hit me. Someone had been inside my house. Someone had changed my locks. I was fumbling for my phone to call 911 when my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, waves from her garden, totally unfazed, like all this is just Tuesday for her. She calls out, "Oh, honey, the HOA took care of that for you while you were gone," with this big sunny smile as if having strangers bust into your place was totally normal. She adds, "That nice Karen lady said it was all approved and everything." I'm standing there just gaping at her. Like the HOA. I'm not even in the HOA. My property sits exactly 43 feet outside their official boundary. I know, because I checked. Believe me, I checked multiple times with the county assessor, the real estate agent. I even paid for my own survey just to be safe before buying this house. But here I was locked out by people who had no right to touch my place. Let me back up a sec. My name's Sarah. I'm what you'd probably call a quiet person. I work from home as a freelance designer, keep to myself, mind my own business. This house was my dream because it was outside the Willowbrook Estates HOA's clutches. I'd heard the stories, nightmare stories, honestly, about HOAs going nuts over the color of someone's mailbox or what plants you put out front. So I picked this spot very much on purpose. No monthly fees, no neighbor with a clipboard policing my life. Just a cozy little house with a yard I could fill with wildflowers instead of regulation grass. It was perfect until Karen Hendress moved in across the street. Now, Karen is the kind of neighbor that makes you understand why some people put up 8-foot privacy fences. Early 50s, always dressed like she's on her way to a country club meeting, never a hair out of place. And that smile that never quite reaches her eyes. From day one, she made it clear that she saw my house as a blight, mostly because mine was built in the 70s and stood out next to all the newer beige boxes across the street. My siding is cheerful yellow, my mailbox is bright red, and cardinal sin I planted wildflowers instead of their little uniform shrubs. She didn't just dislike it, she seemed personally offended. It started with the looks. She'd walk her ridiculous little Pomeranian past my yard twice a day, always slowing down to shoot my garden this withering glare. Then she started with the comments loud enough for anyone within 50 feet to hear stuff about some people not understanding what it means to live in a community. When I put out a little garden gnome, she came over to tell me that lawn ornaments were tacky and disrespectful, like she was the arbiter of taste for the whole zip code. I tried to be nice, explained that I wasn't in her HOA, but she just kept repeating that everyone needs to do their part to maintain property values. She really could not wrap her head around the fact that her rules didn't apply to me. Then came the escalation. She was like a villain in a slow burn movie. I painted my front door turquoise, my favorite color. And the next day, Karen's at my door waving a printout of the HOA's covenants that said doors have to be earth tones. I showed her my deed, my survey, everything. She said paperwork can be wrong. Obviously, you're part of the community, so you need to follow the rules. It just didn't click for her. Soon after, I started finding official-looking violation notices on my door about my trash cans, my landscaping, where I parked my car. I ignored most of it, but then she started reporting me to city code enforcement for supposedly running an illegal business, since sometimes clients dropped by my art studio. The city guy who came out was almost apologetic, said this was the 4th complaint from the same person, all bogus. It was exhausting. Karen even started going door to door with a clipboard trying to drum up support among the HOA to clean up the block, even with neighbors who lived 3 streets away and had never seen my place. Most people just wanted her to go away, but a few caved and signed her petition just for peace. But the last straw. Coming back from my sister's and realizing I was locked out of my own home, standing on my own porch listening to Mrs. Peterson cheerfully explain that the HOA had taken care of my house. That was it. I felt this hot, shaking fury I'd never felt before. It wasn't about the rules or property values anymore. It was about the fact that someone had invaded the one place in the world that was supposed to be mine. I stomped across the street and rang Karen's bell like I was about to bust it. She answered pristine as ever and acted like she was doing me a favor. The locks were changed for security, Sarah. The HOA needed to bring your property into compliance. Since you ignored our notices, we had to take action. I could barely get the words out. I was so angry, Karen. I am not in your HOA. You have no authority over my house. She just gave that glassy laugh. Sweetie, you can't opt out of community responsibilities because you don't like the rules. We're all in this together. That's when I called the cops right there on her porch. When Officer Martinez showed up, Karen handed him a folder of fake documents. He just looked tired, said it was a civil dispute. I'd need a lawyer. I spent that night in a hotel feeling totally powerless. But lying there in that weird-smelling room staring at the popcorn ceiling, something flipped in me. The helplessness turned into pure cold determination. I was going to make sure Karen regretted every second of this. The next day, I was at the county assessor's office before they opened, pulling every record I could get. Plat maps, deeds, HOA boundaries. I had the surveyor out again to walk the property line. I got certified copies of everything. There was no question my place was outside the HOA by over 40 feet. They had no rights here. None. That afternoon, I talked to neighbors who'd seen Karen snooping. Mrs. Chen had spotted her photographing my shed. Mr. Rodriguez watched her measuring my fence with a tape. Even Mrs. Peterson, bless her, had seen Karen directing the locksmith and paying him. My security cameras had caught more Karen snooping around the locksmith, changing the locks, the whole thing uploaded to the cloud. I took it all to a law firm that specializes in property rights. Jennifer Patterson. The attorney was almost gleeful. This isn't just trespassing, she said. It's breaking and entering civil rights violations, maybe even fraud. She suggested we bring the local news into it. Channel 7, the Fighting Back segment. Her legal letter to Karen and the HOA hit like a bomb. Restore my locks, return my property, apologize in writing, cover my legal fees and hotel, or we'd see them in court, 48 hours or else. Instead of doubling down, Karen showed up at my hotel room looking like she hadn't slept in days, hair a mess, mascara running. Sarah, there's been a misunderstanding. Can't we work this out? I didn't even open the door. Karen, you broke into my house. You're going to face the consequences. She tried to plead her case, but there was nothing left to say. Channel 7's story aired 2 days later. They had it all, the maps, the footage, interviews with neighbors, and the locksmith who admitted he was told the property was under HOA control. The public tore Karen to pieces. Facebook lit up with angry comments. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, issued a public apology, covered my damages. Fired the locksmith, banned Karen from enforcement for life. But it got better. The DA pressed charges breaking and entering trespass harassment. Karen's good faith defense fell apart the moment the prosecutor played the video of her giving the locksmith orders. It was open and shut. The jury didn't even need 2 hours. She got probation, community service restitution, and a total ban from any HOA activities for 5 years. On the civil side, her insurance refused to cover her because of the intentional crime, so she had to pay damages out of pocket enough to make her take a second mortgage. All the while, she became the community outcast. The final twist. 2 months later, Mrs. Peterson calls, practically giggling. Karen's house is now buried under violation notices from her own HOA. Turns out, while she was so busy policing everyone else, she'd let her own yard go to hell, overwatered lawn peeling fence garbage cans out for days. The new enforcement officer wasn't about to play favorites. Karen racked up fines, got threats of legal action, lost her role as the local enforcer, and eventually couldn't keep up with the bills. She tried everything to get back her status, organizing meetings, leaving anonymous notes, calling me a criminal, accusing me of bribery. Nobody cared. When she violated my restraining order with those notes, the judge revoked her probation and sent her to jail. While she was inside, her husband moved out, filed for divorce, and the HOA put a lien on her house for the unpaid fines. Eventually, the bank foreclosed. The ultimate payback. Karen, the self-appointed sheriff, had to watch as the same locksmith company changed her locks for the bank. Her house sold for a song to a young couple who ironically restored it to perfection without anyone breathing down their necks. The HOA learned its lesson, put real oversight in place, and paid back every family Karen had victimized with bogus violations and fake fines. Standing in my yard, looking at my wildflowers and that cheerful turquoise door, I realized none of this would have happened if I'd just rolled over. Bullies don't stop until you make them. My neighborhood is quieter now, friendlier. We talk, we help each other out, and no one is terrified of opening their mailbox. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Was I right to take it this far? Or does community mean something different these days? Let me know what justice looks like to you, because I think this is what it's supposed to be.